Hi everyone, today's topic is the volume of cylinders. As a reminder, you do not need to write down everything we'll cover in this video, but be sure to jot down important information and at least one example of each type of problem that we'll cover. Also remember you can pause to jot down important notes, rewind to view information again, and fast forward if you think you got it. But make sure you don't fast forward too much that you miss out on something important. So today we're talking about volume of cylinders. To start off, we need to know what a cylinder is. Here are everyday cylinder items, or items that are shaped like a cylinder. The most typical that people think of is the soup can. So a cylinder has a circle as the two bases, and then it has a smooth surface on the outside. Recently, a more recent everyday object is a hydro flask. That the bottle is shaped as a cylinder, if you don't think about the cap, of course, because it has a circle as the top and bottom bases, and it's smooth on the outside for you to hold. And my personal favorite example is a circular Post-it pad. So if you think about a Post-it pad, but instead each sheet is shaped like a circle, then that also, at least a stack of them, is going to create a cylinder as well. And I like to think about the circular Post-it pad for volume in particular, because it's going to help me with my formula later for figuring out the volume. Now, volume is the total area inside of a three-dimensional shape. So we're talking about, for your soup can, how much soup is inside. For your hydro flask, how much water can it hold? And then for your Post-it pad, how much paper is inside this entire stack of Post-its in that pad? People also think about how many smaller cubes can fit into the 3D shape. So it's basically the amount of area inside of a three-dimensional shape. Volume you also probably have heard for like the volume of someone's voice, right? In science class, you probably have learned that volume comes from your voice or a sound basically bouncing off the walls. So that's why if you were to go to a very empty room or a huge canyon and you yell, you get an echo back, because that's your voice kind of bouncing back, the sound bouncing back from the walls. So volume, when we talk about volume as being like how loud your voice is, right? So if you think about it in terms of volume in math, the area inside of a three-dimensional shape, that's related to how big or how vast the area is that your voice is trying to fit into. So if you're in a huge room all by yourself, you're going to hear a huge echo coming back. And that's where volume comes from. So it's not really like how loud your voice is, but it's actually a more indication of how big the room is that you're speaking in, how much your voice projects to bounce off those walls. Okay, so if you're trying to figure out the volume of a cylinder, I want you to think about a Post-it notepad. So if I wanted to figure out how much paper was in this entire Post-it notepad, I would first tackle it by taking off one of the Post-its and figuring out how much area is in one layer. And then I would basically take that area and multiply it by how many sheets I have as a shortcut, because it's just a whole bunch of the same sheet stacked on top of each other. So if I take off one Post-it, I basically have a circle in front of me, and I would need to figure out the area of a circle. You should know the area of a circle is pi r squared, or pi times r times r. Some people remember it by thinking about a pie, like an actual pie you can eat, but in the shape of a square, pi r squared. So again, pi is 3.14, and r is the radius. Radius is the length of the circle's center to its edge. So area of a circle, radius, and all that kind of stuff, you should have learned in 7th grade when you were learning about circles. So this should be a review. Again, area of the circle of one circle, a two-dimensional circle, is pi times radius times radius. We're going to go over an example of that later. So again, I want the area of one post-it circle, and then I'm going to multiply by how many of those are in the entire post-it pad. The amount of post-its in this pad is basically like the height of the cylinder. How tall it is will tell me how many layers there are. So the other part to the formula is just figuring out how many layers or the height of the cylinder and multiplying that. So we're just adding a multiply by height, h, to that previous formula. So pi times r is the area of one circular post-it, and then we're going to multiply by the height of that cylinder, that entire stack, so that we can get the entire stack's area. So that's the height of the entire cylinder. And that right there, pi times r times h, is the volume formula of a cylinder, pi r squared h, or pi times r times h. And again, that's basically breaking down a cylinder into its different layers, figuring out the area of one of the circles, and then multiplying by how many layers there are. If you don't have this in your notebook yet, make sure you pause the video and put this in your notebook now. Now we're just going to go through a couple of problems in Khan Academy so that we have some practice. In this problem, they want you to find the volume of this cylinder, and they want you to either enter an exact answer in terms of pi or use 3.14 for pi. So pause the video and try it on your own first. All right, I'm going to give you both the exact answer and 3.14 for pi and show you the difference of that. So first we need the volume formula. Volume of a cylinder. Pretend like that was written neatly. Equals pi times r times h. I'm writing it all out here. It's really pi r squared h, but a lot of people either miss that square or they multiply by 2 instead. So I'm just writing it all out so that I know not to make that mistake. All right, so we're going to do it in exact terms of pi first in blue, and then I'll use 3.14 in my other way. So again, Khan Academy will accept either answer. So for exact terms, we're going to keep pi as the pi symbol. By keeping it as pi, we're giving the answer at the end the exact answer because we're not rounding it. 3.14 is rounding. So that's not going to be exact. By keeping it as pi, it's going to be exact. Our radius, remember, is the center of the circle to the edge. So our radius here is 3. This is 3 units times another 3 units. And then we have to multiply by the height, which is 2. So we're just multiplying by 2 units. All right, so at the end, I'm going to, again, keep pi as itself. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. So it's 18 pi units cubed because there's 3 of those units. Volume is always going to have a cubed unit. Okay, that's if we want it as an exact answer. Now we're going to use 3.14 for pi. We're going to use the same formula because the formula is never going to change for cylinder. Pi times r times h. The only thing that we're changing is we're using 3.14 for pi. And I'm going to use parentheses instead of the dot for multiplication. It's the same thing, just a different way of writing it. Times 3 units times 3 units times the 2 units for the height. So the height, the radius, those all remain the same. The only thing that's changed was we wrote pi a little differently. So now we're going to do 3.14 times 3 times 3 times 2 in my calculator. So that's basically going to be 18 times 3.14. So I get 56.52, and I have 3 of those units, so it's units, oops, not squared, there's 3 of them, so it's cubed. I could put either one of these answers in, and Khan Academy will accept it. So I'm going to put in 18 pi, and they gave me a pi symbol, and that should totally work. Okay, so that's all they mean by exact answer or 3.14. Blue is exact, and the 3.14 is in red. We'll do one last one. Same type of problem, so go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own first. Okay, so again, we're going to do the exact answer. So the volume of the cylinder is pi times radius times the height. Pi times our radius is 2, that's from the center to the edge. If they were to give you this entire thing was 2, then the radius would be half of that, which is 1. But they gave you the half, so that's 2. 2 units times another 2 units, the exact same thing, times the height. The height is 8 for the entire cylinder. And then your answer would be, oops, I forgot the 8 there. That would have messed me up there. 32 pi, because I'm just multiplying the numbers together to get 32, keeping the pi, units cubed. Or I could basically take 32, multiply by 3.14, and get the exact answer in my calculator. So basically changing that pi into 3.14. And I have 100.48 units cubed. So again, I could put either one in. Let's do the estimated version this time. And that one works as well. Okay. You need to remember the volume formula for the cylinder. Remember, it's just pi r squared times h. Let me know if you have any questions as you work on these problems, and I'll see you in class.